Okay, just testing. Am I yelling at y'all? Okay, this is good? Okay. We are going to be slightly short, it looks like, assuming that everyone standing at the moment has food. Or doesn't already have food, I should say. Yes. I think some people might have forgotten to hit submit or something. Y'all promise I'm not yelling at you? It feels like I'm yelling at you. Okay.
Quoting Dr. Stoll.
Am I?
He just said that. He said, I'm yelling with you.
He meant about his general vibes, not about the microphone.
Look, the videos y'all have been using in class, because my office is right there, I keep thinking like a riot's breaking out in here. Like earlier, the video from ER, I was like, oh my gosh, do I need to stick my head into the class like I did yesterday? And y'all all just kind of turned and looked at me. And I went, okay, bye.
I didn't register for this.
I was going to say, we're not, there will be chips and salsa if you did not register, and guac and queso.
I'll take it.
And I even ordered a few extra, but
You always do.
yeah, normally I have less show up than sign up by a few, and this time I've got more.
Oh, we're already here.
Exactly. And, you know, hey, loan forgiveness, we do want to talk about this. So,
I had a question.
no,
That I forgot to ask.
you're not allowed.
Yeah. The loan forgiveness, I guess we might answer it here. Does that include college loans or are those separate?
All federal loans.
Okay, so when we looked at that number, it
Yeah,
includes
everything.
Okay.
Everything that was on that file you sent me.
Okay. Perfect.
Sorry.
Good to know.
Gluten-free chicken salad. I didn't have anyone specifically request gluten-free. It just...
I'll see how. No, I have 7.
Okay. Sorry, y'all.
You don't apologize.
Yeah, Casey's not here.
You're right. It is y'all's fault.
Yeah, it totally is our fault.
But I feel mean saying that.
You know, sign up.
But then I won't lose any sleep over that either. So.
Do a root cause analysis to find out whose fault it is.
Fair enough. I emailed everyone last week. All right. I'm going to let y'all go ahead and finish getting your plates of, at this point, chips, salsa, guac, and queso. But I'm going to get started because there's a lot to cover, and I have a meeting at 1 with someone who is likely in this room, although I have not looked through. Yep, there he is. Okay. So before we even get to our agenda, I need to give an acknowledgement to the person that I stole the original version of this from about 6 or 7 years ago. At the time, she was the aide director at Case Western up in Cleveland, if I'm remembering my geography right. And at the time, she had 76 qualifying payments. By now, she should actually be done, assuming that she stayed in the private sector when she left Case Western. So thank you to Sarah for setting up the original version of this. I've also turned around and made it a little bit of mine, but she still needs a shout out on this one. So agenda, what are we talking about today? public service loan forgiveness, and it's an idiot's guide to public service loan forgiveness. And if I'm the idiot that can figure out public service, y'all are going to do just fine. I'm going to give you a couple of disclaimers. I'm going to give you an overview of just the whole program, things you likely already know. And then we're going to have a new thing this year where we've got a little bit of parallel timelines. And I'll talk about why we're doing that when we get there. Some tips, what to do when your job changes, what to do in the very unlikely event that you have to postpone payments. I will tell you up front, don't do that if you don't have to. We actually got rid of the CARES Act. That one doesn't affect y'all anymore. And then any advocacy that you may want to get involved in with this. Although I will tell you up front, what we're seeing with PSLF right now is it seems to be a very safe program. It's not going away in anyone's radar. If it does, y'all are protected because you have a promissory note that specifically lists public service loan forgiveness. It is a part of your contract with the government on these loans. Now, it doesn't specifically expound exactly how that looks, but there's enough precedent. There's also enough legal cases already that there's legal precedent when they've tried to make changes, it's been fought. So if they're going to make a change, any likely change is going to affect new borrowers, not y'all. All right, my disclaimers. This information is accurate as of today. It could change in the 10 years that y'all are doing public service loan forgiveness. If you see something change, keep up to date on it. I think Google still does this where it can give you alerts when it comes up in the news, like, hey, PSLF change, and just set that as a alert there, and it'll email you and let you know. Make sure that we have really good alumni contacts for you, because guess what? Repayment has changed for our students who graduated in the last 4 or 5 years. And if I don't have a good alumni contact, I can't let them know what they should likely be doing. And so I've been getting some one-off emails from some of our alums who we didn't have good contact for before, who didn't get my just generic emails like, hey, this is changing. You may want to consider this. Happy to meet with you. And they're like, Casey, I'm so stressed out. What am I going to do? I'm like, oh, well, had you gotten my email, you wouldn't have hit this stage. So make sure we get a good contact email for you on your way out. Disclaimer number 2, there was an executive order put out March of last year, EO 14235, Restoring Public Service Loan Forgiveness. So this is actually interesting title on this. Kind of gives me an indication that the current administration doesn't want to eliminate it, which is a good thing. Which kind of interesting, the 3 administrations prior did have public service on the chopping block, and it never could get chopped, and we're happy about that. It's a good thing. So the executive order that we're talking about here directed the Department of Ed, which from here on out I'm just going to call Ed. You can't call it the DOE because Department of Energy existed first. So if you're wondering why acronyms work the way they do with government, this is why. So it ordered Ed to exclude organizations with a substantial illegal purpose. Anyone have a guess on what impact this may have on y'all, if any? I know it's kind of a nebulous thing. You're like, well, I'm not going to work for anyone that's doing anything illegal. Makes sense. So it's largely targeted at groups that are like pushing people to get out in the streets and protest violently. That was the main push on this. So that doesn't affect y'all a bit. But what we have heard, and there is some speculation about, is if you find yourself working in a state that criminalizes gender-affirming surgical or prescription care for minors, and your hospital does that, the hospital could become ineligible for public service loan forgiveness. Now, how often do we expect this to happen? Realistically, not at all. Like, it just is very unlikely to happen. because hospitals make their money off Medicare, Medicaid. If they're doing something that's illegal in that state, right or wrong, we're not even looking at the morality of it. We're looking at the legality of it. They're going to stop doing it because they'll otherwise go bankrupt. Make sense? We find this unlikely. If it does happen, we're talking maybe between now and when y'all are done with your public service loan forgiveness, 2 to 3 hospitals may lose eligibility for taking a stand. I still find it unlikely to happen, but want you to be aware of it because it did make the news a lot last year and even on some of the medical circles. And so you may have seen some of this. Again, not likely to cause any issues to you, but just be aware. All right. In a nutshell, things you likely already know. Public service loan forgiveness, you're going to pay for 10 years, 120 on-time payments to the Department of Ed. By the way, for some of you, those on-time payments could be $0 for the first year. For others of you, they're going to be $10 for the first year in most cases. We're talking like 90% of the cases. You have to have eligible loans. What does that mean? Federal loans. In a nutshell, at this point, federal loans. Unless any of you were already in college before 2008, none of you should have any what are called FFELP loans, Family Federal Education Loan Program, which were federal loans, but they were done by private lenders through a contract with the government. If you do, we'll talk consolidation. But I actually, so far, no one I've met with this year has that situation going on. And even before 2008, you likely were already a direct loan program student anyway, and again, doesn't affect you. So qualifying eligible loans, qualifying employer. Raise your hand if you know you're not going to be working for a nonprofit, not-for-profit, or government agency. I'm seeing no hands. Good, you all are going to be working for qualified. Oh, well, we're not counting your first year. That one doesn't count. We already talked about that. All right, but I mean like for the entirety. Like if you have 5-6 years and you're in the wrong meeting, enjoy the burrito. But no, if you work for a nonprofit, not-for-profit government agency, that could be state, federal, or local, literally 95+% of hospitals, you're going to qualify. Payments must have a bill attached to them. So I mentioned on-time payments. You can't voluntarily make a payment today and have it count towards public service loan forgiveness because you're not officially in repayment. So they have to be billing you, again, even if that bill's $0 or $10, but you have to be officially in repayment. That's why for some of you, we're going to accelerate that process. For others of you, we're going to ride out your grace period. And we've got kind of a few ways to look at that. Now, updated by me, at least as of yesterday, but it's likely January data, the Department of Ed reports that 1,183,600 borrowers have had 8.76 billion with a B. We're not talking Dr. Evil, million with an M, billion with a B, money in loans forgiven for an average of $74,000 per person. You got to remember, y'all are likely the ones driving that up. It's kind of like medicine is way up here, and then everyone else is getting like 20 grand forgiven. So y'all are really a driving force in that. Of those who have been rejected and had their applications turned down, 74% of those were simply they didn't finish the daggum thing. So when you do your paperwork, finish the paperwork. Make sense? Sorry, I'm trying to get where I can see people better and not have to keep turning around or y'all looking around at me. Of those, another 11.4% were canceled by the borrower themselves. They realized they didn't do anything before the government could even reject it. Okay, good. Now we're above 85%. Don't be this person. 7.5% of them just forgot to sign the daggum thing. Like some people might have forgotten to hit submit on their I'm showing up today so that Casey could order your food thing. Not calling names. Some had an ineligible employer. They likely just logged on, said, hey, here's this form. I'm going to see if it works. and their employer wasn't eligible. That's a very rare one, especially given some of the things we're going to talk about today. And 2%, for some reason, submitted the form and didn't actually have loans. Y'all, people find a government form, they fill it out thinking they're going to get something. I don't get it. Or it was handed to them. Their parents said, do this. They didn't read it. I don't know. It's 2%. But long story short, the program is working. And the program is working very well. Just working with a couple of our faculty members here, as well as some of our friends, or some of my friends, we've been able to track it all the way through, and I've been able to help them and make sure that they get their approval. So this is well tested, although our charter class is just likely in August. The first students are going to qualify from our charter class, but the faculty I was able to help out a little bit earlier. And then again, some of my friends that were a little bit further down the road. I will never forget, I was driving back from graduation about 4 years ago, and I got a call from one of our faculty members that I had helped early on in the school. And they're like, Casey, I'm calling you before I call my mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? They're like, my loans got forgiven. Awesome, because we had been working on that for a few years. So it's fun. And by the way, when y'all get those, I would say call me, but call whoever follows me because I'll be retired. Find me on Facebook, if that's still a thing. Y'all don't even do Facebook, do you? All right, anywho. So now I'm going to tell y'all to do something I don't usually tell you. Get your phones out. We're not shopping on Amazon. Open your calendar app. We're going to do a bunch of reminders in here. By the way, this is recording right now. We're going to post it online because I know a lot of you haven't had your exit counseling sessions yet. So as I'm talking through it, you're going to be like, hey, I think that's me, but we may change the I think that's me to a opposite plan when we have our one-on-one. So next month, good gracious, y'all have 3 weeks of class left? Y'all have, 3 weeks of class, 1 week off, and then a week off after the final week of class. Y'all have done it. Y'all did good. Good job. And in May, your first step is just to graduate. Don't skip out on any of your IPM4 stuff. It's the last thing between you and graduation. Don't be that person that we have to find a way for you to take May courses, and don't do that. So graduate. Do what you're supposed to do for this class that y'all just finished the first week of today. And then I need you to complete a checklist. Is my residency program a qualifying program? And if not first year, is my advanced standing, see, I got you covered there, is my advanced standing program a qualifying program? Government agency, 501c3, kind of everything we already discussed. Then I need to go to studentaid.gov and check and make sure my loans qualify. Some of you may have this thing called a Perkins loan. That program was eliminated about 7-8 years ago. I forget the exact timeline on that, but you could have a Perkins loan from your time in undergrad. It was a need-based loan, typically at 5% interest, and it was what was called campus-based funds, meaning that the Department of Ed gave everyone a big chunk of money back in the 60s and 70s for that program. And then as students paid it back, the schools recouped their money and were able to relend the money. And so it was a campus-based fund in that way. Then 7-8 years ago, they basically said, yeah, this is becoming too cumbersome. You can borrow up to cost of attendance with Grad Plus, which works for y'all, not the incoming class. And so they eliminated that program, but it could still be out there. And so if it is, you're going to need a consolidation loan to get that counted, unless you're one of our students that we're going to recommend for income-based repayment, IBR. We'll come to that in a second, in which case we don't want to consolidate. So I do want to get that out there. But direct sub and unsub loans, direct plus loans, Grad Plus. You can't actually consolidate in your parents' plus loans if they took any out for you while you were in undergrad. And then consolidation loans I've already mentioned. So run down that checklist. If you've got something, the FELP loans, FFELP, we may need to consolidate, we may need to make some changes, or we may need to strategize and go, okay, do we pay off these old FELP loans and leave everything else direct to get forgiven? It's going to be very unlikely that most of y'all have this. Maybe at most one of you in the room, just going by the stats of what I've seen the last few years. Step 3 for May, download and save all your master promissory notes. Cover your assets. CYA. Yeah, you see what I did there? I stole that from someone. I don't know who, so I can't give it credit. Download and save these promissory notes. You already heard me mention that public service loan forgiveness is listed specifically on your promissory note. I want to say it's item 21 or 28. I can't remember, but for some reason in my head, it's a multiple of 7. So download those. That's your contract. You should have done one grad plus one and one direct unsub loan one while you were starting medical school. You may have some prior ones from undergrad. Download every single one of them. If you submitted 5 in 1 year because for some reason it didn't come in, download all 5. Keep it in a file. Don't care where you put it. And so, are you pointing for a reason? Or? You're first then. An MPN? That's the document. Okay. So I'm going to go over where, and I have screenshots and everything, y'all. What it is, master promissory note. It's basically your mortgage for your student loans. So believe it or not, like your actual mortgage is not, well, it is the loan itself, but it's also the paperwork. This is your paperwork where you promissory, the government that you would repay these loans. So master being that it was good for all of your loans that you took out instead of having to do an individual one every year. That's why you only had to do one. So how do you do this? I'm going to tell you, I realize I even put it on the screen. This is an old picture. It looks almost exactly the same. The website has just changed headings. Instead of studentloans.gov, it's studentaid.gov now. I just don't have an updated version because my loans are gone. So log into studentaid.gov. I'm old, okay? If my loans weren't gone, you shouldn't be taking financial advice from me at this point. Just saying. All right, so log into studentaid.gov, click on View My Documents. Once you do that, you can do a filter and filter out only your promissory notes. Save the PDF. Flash drive, Google Drive, somewhere in the cloud. I don't care as long as you're not going to lose it. Super easy. Yeah. You can do this right now. I try not to give you homework while you're still in school. But yeah, you could do it right now, or you could wait till May. All right, so you've done that. Now you've graduated. And this isn't actually something for you to do, but you won't be able to start anything until you're officially separated from the university. Because by law, don't know why they have this law, you cannot officially enter repayment while you're still actively in school and connected with the university. So for some of you, we're going to do what we can to truncate that period and we'll consolidate and get rid of your grace period by creating a new loan. For others of you, we're going to ride out that grace period. And then from here on out, by the way, we're going to be looking largely at those 2 parallel tracks. And so with that, why? Y'all are unique. Some of you have had your exit counseling sessions with me. You already heard me say this. Y'all are stuck in the middle, and it's a good thing. You get to choose between old guard repayment, which is going to be IBR, income-based repayment, and new repayment, RAP, Repayment Assistance Plan. If I keep saying program, just forgive me, it's plan. So what's the difference between them? Both are income driven. So when we're hearing this, it's going to be a payment based on your income, no matter what decision we're looking at on this for you. If you are 100% committed to public service loan forgiveness, that is the only option I'm doing. There is no chance I'm ever going to work for a for-profit, or if I do, I'm willing to pay off all of this debt and then some extra interest. IBR is going to be the plan for you. Realistically, for most students, IBR is for you if you're 100% public service loan forgiveness is the only thing I'm thinking of. For everyone else who's like, I'm pretty sure, but hey, I'm going into a field where it's like 80-20 nonprofit and 20% for-profit practices, private practices, then RAP may be the plan for you. And here's why. IBR has on average a lower payment. Not by much, but a little bit lower payment, meaning that when we run a bunch of scenarios, while your individuals may be different, the kind of per capita looking at everybody, the average difference about $20,000 when we run it out over 10 years. So on average about $2,000 a year, even though most of that difference is as an attending. So you will pay $20,000 less if you're an average student on IBR if you're committed to public service loan forgiveness, and that's the only option. RAP, on the other hand, has a slightly higher payment. But, well, at least once you hit $70,000 in income. Below $70,000, it's actually cheaper. So most of you will hit that PGY2 or 3. With the lower payment, you pay the minimum and the government's going to pay the rest of your interest. So let's just, for simplicity's sake, call your payment $300, your monthly interest at $2,000. You pay $300 with RAP, the government's going to pay $1,700 of your interest. But across the whole totality of RAP, you would end up paying, on average, $20,000 more trying to get public service loan forgiveness. So that's our trade-off. We could pay off 20 grand less if we're 100% certain and we go with IBR, or we can save money on interest if there's at all a chance that we may end up going and working for a for-profit. You know, I'm not going to ask you to raise hands, but if y'all are thinking, you know what, I really want to go work in Florida, it feels like half the hospitals in Florida are for-profit hospitals. That's probably not entirely accurate, but at least in the area my family was in, you had to look hard for a nonprofit. They have since moved out, not because of that, but for other reasons. So if your profession is one that has a higher occurrence of for-profit private practices, by the way, when I say that, I'm not meaning a pediatric practice that's owned by a hospital system. That still qualifies for public service because it's owned by the hospital. It's ultimately who writes my paycheck, and if that group is for-profit, I don't qualify for public service. If that group is nonprofit, I do qualify for public service. Making sense? This is why we do these meetings individually. Go for it. Can you switch? Really loaded question. If you start with IBR, you will later be able to switch into RAP. But after July 1st, if you're in RAP, you will never be able to switch back to IBR. And that's because it is going to sunset for anyone who has a new loan or loan repayment after July 1st. Now, in y'all's case, you're entering repayment. You will not have a new loan if you don't consolidate. So you remain eligible for IBR until you switch out of it. So you can keep it for all 10 years based on our current understanding of the regs. But if you ever switch out of it to any other repayment, you can never go back because it'll be gone and that'll be treated like a new change into the program. Yeah, you get a benefit by being this kind of class in the middle, but also there are some additional complications. Like when I do this presentation next year, it's gonna be like, boom, here's the track, everyone do it. Yes? Mm-hmm. So the 6-month grace period, if we do IBR, does not count towards that. The 12 months after that, so when you start payments likely in December 1st, which I'll get to like actual timeline in a second, when you start payments, your $0 payment that starts on December 1st will count, but the 6 months between now and then will not. Yeah. So we're gonna have a longer time between, and actually a longer time not making a payment, but it does mean a couple of more payments as an attending versus as a resident. All right, now we're on the parallel plan. All this set up, and you have your first item to mark on your calendar. So after looking at what we talked about in the last one, You're either going to be putting your calendar on July 1st or November 1st. And you're going to put the notes that you see up here. So if your RAP plan, you're going to, on July 1st or between July 1st and 15th, I've got that up there because there might be some delays. Like we've got a range. Normally, I don't like to do ranges. I'd rather give you a specific one. But you're going to want to consolidate anytime after July 1st. Because what that does is it triggers a new loan. Your consolidation loan is a new loan. And that is what qualifies you for RAP, having a new loan. And if this is you, you consolidate as part of the application itself, it's going to give you RAP as an option for repayment. So it's all on there. I'll actually show you some screenshots of consolidating. If you're, on the other hand, going, nope, 100%, I'm public service loan forgiveness, you're in the IBR track, you flip over to November 1st, set a reminder to submit your IDR request. IDR is income-driven repayment. And on that, you're going to select IBR because we like to be confusing. Income-driven repayment request, income-based repayment is the actual one you're selecting on there. All right, so how do you consolidate? What are you going to do? We've kind of already covered why. If you're going into RAP, we want to get you started as fast as possible. And getting rid of your grace period is the only way to do that. So how? You log into studentaid.gov, you click on Manage Loans, and you click on Consolidate My Loans. And then you're going to click Start. And that's literally as far as I could get with my screenshots because, again, I don't still have loans. Now, when you go in there, part of the application is going to have you select what repayment plan, and you're going to select RAP. And then indicate on there also that you're wanting to do public service loan forgiveness. That's going to cue them in to make sure that everything starts tracking properly. Don't skip that button on the application. All right, now step 2. Again, put it on your calendar. RAP, this is your July 1st. So another one for July 1st for you, just to edit the one you've already got. IBR, November 1st. Go ahead and complete your very first employment certification form. Because at that point, you will have started residency. You are working. It's not going to actually certify any months of employment, but it goes ahead and gets the government going. This person works for a qualifying entity. Yes?
So let's say you're doing RAP, you need to consolidate. That's going to be somewhere between July 1st and July 15th. Since you have a new loan and you still need to submit this employment certification form, are you missing a year because you're missing that July 1st?
No. You're doing this July 1st this year.
No matter if you consolidate it or not.
Exactly.
So consolidating the loan does not wipe out that previous form.
There is no previous form.
The form I submit on July 1st.
No. That's the consolidation request. This is just saying that I work for a qualified employer so that they start tracking it.
And just to clarify, this is for both RAP and I.
Yep,
Okay.
both. For no matter what your plan is, your dates are different, but you're going to want to do your employer certification form. So what was it, like the 4.5% of people that didn't work for qualified employers never did this. And that was actually early adopters. They didn't have this form for the first 7 years that public service was around. But even once it showed up, they never did this form. They never got their employer certified. And when you do that, it, 1, tells the government to count. It, 2, certifies it and shows and gives you an updated tally of eligible payments for every year that you do this. And this is why, if you look in the bold there, whatever day you put this reminder on, you need to repeat it once a year on that day for 10 years. Go ahead. No, you're fine. If you do IBR, you won't. If you're wanting to do IBR, consolidation creates a new loan. You'll have a new loan after July 1st, and you won't be eligible for IBR. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Like I said, y'all are kind of in this cool in between, but it complicates things. Huh? You were. Y'all are the fun class. Yes.
So if you do everything on time, like the earliest month that you can have a payment that goes towards PSO.
That's my next slide. Well, maybe not the next slide. It's my next mark your calendar thing. Yeah, but it's typically going to be 1 month after this. So when you submit your repayment request, usually a month later, your first payment goes in, whether it's $0, $10, or a higher number, depending on your income.
So December.
Yeah, most likely if you're IBR, no, December 1.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily go by, because like we start July 1st, it's not August.
No, it's all based on payments while working for a qualified employer, not when you started working for that employer.
Okay, but there's no way to start the payment when you start, when you're an employee.
Not for IBR, because back to what we talked about with when we were telling RAP to consolidate, you can't legally eliminate your grace period on those existing loans. Now, there may be some in the room who took a leave of absence or something like that, in which case you used up your grace period. Those students will likely be starting earlier, just naturally, because their grace period's already gone. But for everyone else who's never used up their grace period, you're likely looking at 6 months after graduation.
Can I ask one more question?
No, yeah, go ahead.
So if you do income driven, it's based off taxable income of the previous year,
Mhm.
correct?
RAP is the same on that as well. So they're both income-driven plans.
Okay, so assuming we didn't do a threshold of, like dog sitting or whatever, let's say we make money, we only get that, like you said, like $0 or $10, we would only get that then for a potential 1 month.
No, you get it for 12 months. So it's when you do your application, it looks at the previous year and it sets a 12-month payment plan.
Okay.
And then it's going to reevaluate a year later. So no matter what, you're going to get 12 months at the rate that you get. I didn't mention this. Thank you for asking that, because I should have mentioned this. If you haven't already, go ahead and file your taxes. Even if your income was 0, you're going to have to do a paper return most likely. It's not that cumbersome. It's like all zeros with a 1 for the number of people in the household. But get the taxes filed so that when you go and submit these applications, they can pull the information directly from the IRS. And that's how they're going to do it. All right. So you're going to begin your employment. You're going to get your ECF done. You're going to take that employment certification form. Yep. Sorry.
I have one more question. So you said this form needs to be completed like on the same dates every year. Is there any amount of window?
There's tons of window on this. So like, this is my recommendation for you, just so that you're consistently on a 12-month that's going to line up perfectly with your repayment. You can do this form 3 times a year. I don't recommend it. It's a waste of your time. You could do this form once every other year. I don't recommend that either, because you want to take care of issues as they happen, and at least once a year. It's unlikely that they happen because they've changed how they count these now, but is a possibility. Now, when you get this form done, you can actually have it done, sent directly to your employer's HR department. I do recommend that, but give them a heads up, like stop by, be like, hey, y'all, I submitted a form. It's going to be coming your way. And they're like, yeah, we got it. We already submitted it, hopefully. And then otherwise, you can do a paper version of the form and get that sent in. And when you send that in, they'll give it back to you. There's a platform on studentaid.gov. It's going to look like the image on the right, and that's going to give you a chance to upload that. The paper version is what I've got on the left. You can just Google PSLF employment certification form, and it's going to pull this right up. Most of you will never have to do the paper version, but it's there. The federal government, the way they work, like even FAFSA, you could still do by paper if you wanted to, but you'd be insane to do so. Do not recommend it. All right. So after you've consolidated, you've submitted your IBR request. This is where you're going to start repayment. Again, sign up for direct debit as part of this process. For those of you doing RAP or IBR, it's going to give you a 0.25% reduction on your interest rate. Doesn't matter so much for public service loan forgiveness, but if you find yourself at a for-profit and you have to pay this off, you will greatly appreciate having that 0.25% reduction. For most of you, it's going to set up to automatically withdraw your payment every month, even if that payment's $0 if you're on IBR, and $10 on RAP. Why is that? That's the statutory or by law minimum payment on RAP. The government says, like, because we're going to pay off all your interest, you need to have at least a little skin in the game. Is kind of how that's working. All right, a lot of stuff on the screen, but that was the bulk of it. So now step 3, get your calendar back out. February 1st for everybody. You're back on for temporarily, you're on the same plan. February 1st of next year, 2027, go to that date, put a reminder in your phone to download your 1098E or your 1098 INT. What this is not necessarily for PSLF. This is for your taxes. It's the tax form that says how much interest you paid, because a portion of your student loan interest is tax deductible. We want to lower how much you owe in taxes by lowering your adjusted gross income, which does extra things by, one, saving you money on taxes, but also results in a lower payment on both IBR and RAP because they both use your adjusted gross income. So be sure to get that. Now, your very first year out of school, so this first one upcoming year, you're going to also put in your reminder for that year to download your 1098T. It's the same form you've been getting for 4 years here that says you paid XYZ amount of money in tuition so that you can, again, reduce your AGI and keep your payments down and get more money back. Adjusted gross income, whoever said. Okay. All right. Next thing, you now are a year out from entering or from submitting your applications for repayment. And now it's time for a checkup. I know you doctors are the worst about going and getting your own checkups done and going, you make the worst patients. My mom was in healthcare, like absolute horrible patient. I can say that because she's no longer with us and can't hurt me for that. No, I'm just kidding. I don't believe in ghosts, so I'm good. All right, so a year out. For RAP folks, July 1st of next year, so July 1st, 27. For IBR folks, November 1st, 27. Log in and recertify if you need to. It should be automatic, and a few days before this deadline hits, you should get an email from your loan servicer or the Department of Ed directly saying, hey, it's time to recertify and we've taken care of that for you. If it says simply it's time to recertify, you log in and you do the actual recertification. It's a separate account or separate process than applying, but for all intents and purposes, it looks exactly the same. And you're gonna, by the way, when you set this, I forgot to bold it, but set this reminder up to repeat once a year for 9 years.
Sorry, Casey.
See.
The first time, the ECF, you said that's July 1st or earlier, right?
Of your first year, as soon as you start residency or submit your repayment. So residency if you're RAP, repayment application if you're IBR for the ECF.
So either, like, if I'm doing public service loan forgiveness,
Mhm.
I'm submitting no later than July 1st, my ECF, right?
If you're on the RAP plan.
What about if I'm not on RA?
If you're on the IBR plan, you're doing that on November 1st. You get some extra play time.
Thank you. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Now, if you need to go in and reapply, the instructions are there on the screen. You should not have to do that. The way they've set this up now is to be an automatic renewal. Some of our alum are having to do this now because the government has eliminated some of the repayment plans that they were in. But both of the plans we're talking about today were created by Congress, and it will take a literal act of Congress to eliminate them. All right. We're almost done with like your steps. August 1st for RAP, so now we're looking at 1 year of repayment. December 1st for IBR, you need to log in and check your status. So we've done everything else on our last page. We went and we recertified. Well, now we've actually been in repayment for a year. So we're going to download our checkup form. It's like getting our labs. We're getting our annual labs. It's going to show we have now completed 11 or 12, depending on the day they actually process it, payments. And, what does this look like? It actually looks just like this. This is a screenshot from one of our faculty who was earlier on in the process at the time. They gave me permission to use this as long as I didn't use their name. And it gives a really good breakdown. Now, y'all could ignore the thing up there called TEPSLF. That was a short-term program from when I got these. It was a temporary expansion of public service loan forgiveness. That's gone. It's kind of played out all of its money, but you still have PSLF. And it's going to give you a breakdown of you have X number of qualifying employer certified payments. So your first year, it might say 0, and that's okay as long as below that it says need employment certification 11 or 12, wherever you should be in this process. And then if it says any of them are ineligible, that's when you contact them and contest these. It's unlikely. This was really common early on in the program when when servicers of the loans were hand counting these and hand entering them. Now it's automated. And since it's been automated, I've not had any complaints from our students when I've checked in with them or when they've called me. They're like, no, it's working the way it should.
Sorry, can you touch on this, need employment certification?
Yeah, so need employment certification just means, so like for this person, it was 5 payments since they submitted their last ECF, employment certification form. And so they're like, yes, we think these are going to count. We just need your updated form.
Is that like they didn't do it in time? It wasn't
It's just that's how many since the last one.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a running tally.
It's a running tally. Okay.
Yep.
So, and then how is that different from is that just like in total?
Qualifying means the payments have been made and a form has been submitted since those payments were made. Exactly. Yep.
Thank you.
So it's just kind of, it helps you keep tabs. This person had been in repayment. We've got 60 total eligible payments. At least how they're counting is eligible, and they'll change them to qualifying. So this person had been in for 5 years of their 10 years in public service loan forgiveness. All right. And while you're here, while you're doing all of this, you're going to put in your reminder to download and save everything. You're going to download either a screenshot or an actual downloaded form. There is a form, but you can do either one, of your page that showed your tally and where you were. You're covering your assets here. You are going to download a copy of all of your payments. I'll actually show you what that looks like. And you're going to download a form where they actually say that we have now certified and approved your employer. Pretty basic stuff. You're just going to download everything they're going to offer you. You're going to shove it in a file, and as long as everything continues to look good, you're just filing. You're not having to do anything extra. We're just making sure that should something happen, you're good. And I'm not going to say the government's out to get you. I'm going to say the government's incompetent. This is my opinion, not endorsed by the school. But we've looked at the Department of Ed. They don't do a lot of things well, so you need to make sure you're doing it well. Sorry, when I watched it was the WWF. All right, and then your payment history. So this is the one I was talking about. It'll look just like this, except now they changed the logo from Fed Loan Servicing over to studentaid.gov. They just superimposed that logo on the top. I did take out how much this person was paying. And then you can export this. It's just a simple PDF export. Toss it in the file if everything looks good. All right. Now we're at the fateful day. 10 years from entering repayment. So August 1st of 2036. This is why I'm telling you to go ahead and put this in now so that you're not having to keep a lot of track. So just skip forward 10 years on your calendar, put a reminder in there. Every time you update the phone between now and then, it's going to transfer every bit of it over. You're not going to have to do the work. You're going to log in to your account and you're going to actually apply for loan forgiveness. Everything you've done until then qualified you for this moment. Just like everything you've done in medical school qualified you for that degree that we get to hand out to you on graduation day. So you're going to log in. You're going to make sure that you've hit your 120 payments. You're going to go to manage repayment. You're going to click loan forgiveness. Feel free to screenshot this because I don't remember these steps year after year. And then you're going to click on loan forgiveness and then submit the request. And there's a paper version. There's also a electronic version. Again, I recommend the electronic version because it gets to your employer faster. It gets back to the Department of Ed faster because when they submit it, automatically goes back in. This option will show up at 110 payments. Don't submit it until you hit 120. If you do submit it, you'll be submitting early and you'll be one of those rejected files. Make sense? 10 years from now, or 10 years from your first payment, you submit. And then you're done.
Reason why they didn't give that option to submit at that point?
I don't know, honestly. You're asking me to understand why the government does anything. I don't know why they allow it earlier. I get it probably harkens back to the paper form that people may want to start doing it early. But are you going to fill out a form and keep track of it for 10 months? It doesn't make sense to me, but they do what they do. It used to be available from the very beginning. And that's why when you saw these horror stories really early on, the moment they came out with the idea of PSLF, they released this form on paper. And everyone submitted it, and no one qualified because the program wasn't 10 years old at that point. And so, like, there were all these horror stories. Millions denied. Well, yeah, they didn't. Hadn't been 10 years. So, yeah. And we still do see this happen, but most folks are good enough that they wait till the counter hits 120, and you're good. So that's why we didn't see a lot of denials for that. You're welcome. All right. That's the last of your calendar things. So what are my tips on this? Track everything. Just track it. Again, government's not out to get you. I don't care who's in power at the time. Like them, don't like them. I don't like any of them. So, I'm pretty neutral on this. But they're not efficient. The way government contract work, you always have to take the lowest cost one. And we get what we pay for sometimes. So, the cheapest bid that came in is the one who's going to be managing your stuff. So it's up to you to kind of follow behind and make sure that it's still looking good. Keep copies of everything. Keep it organized. My preferred way, on that thumb drive, on your Google Drive, on whatever drive you're using, I have a folder called Pslf. And then every year, I just put 2026. Every file I download goes in that folder. It just makes it easy to find. At that point, you're downloading like 5 papers a year. I'm not going to subcategorize those. Just keep it simple. Make it easy to find things. Stay organized year after year. Don't just toss it somewhere. If you're going to use a thumb drive, which admittedly is not my preferred method these days, it stays somewhere secure. You keep it in the fire safe or something like that. In the cloud's a way better, more secure place to store this stuff. And you're going to download and save everything. Every single thing. If you can download it, toss it in the file. Even if you never look at it beyond a cursory, yeah, this looks good. Just toss it in there. You're just protecting yourself here. You'll be doing it as part of your charting. Charting is, yes, for getting the accurate records out there, but your chart will be what gets brought up in court. Same thing if you had to challenge the Department of Ed. You want your records, you want your charting to be accurate. All right, what about when you change jobs? Because y'all will likely change jobs. You're not going to work for the same place necessarily for 10 years. So, one, as I'm looking for a new job, I'm making sure that it is a 501c3 if I'm down this road for public service loan forgiveness. Making sure that that's good. If I can't tell online, and quite frankly, a Google search will usually do it for you. I've done that for a few of you when we've done your exit counseling sessions. You're like, hey, I'm 99% sure. I'm like, Google is such and such hospital, a nonprofit, and it pulls up their 501c3 status. It works. It's accurate. As you are switching jobs, on your way out of your current employer, you're going to submit an ECF with that current employer, typically in your last week, and you're going to get them to certify that. On the first day of your new employer, you're going to submit an ECF with that new employer. So we're showing the government that there is no gap in my employment working for a qualified employer. Is it the end of the world if there is some sort of a gap? No, not end of the world, but if we're talking attending salaries, we could be talking a $2,000 to $3,000 payment not counting. So yeah, it's going to cost you $2,000 to $3,000 to make that mistake, to have that gap that shows up in there. Your decision. My advice is to submit it on both ends. What if you have to postpone payments? The crap just hits the fan. Everything breaks at once. You could be looking at the quote that I got this morning for a new drain field for my septic system, and ouch. And it's like, ooh, I want to go minimums on everything for a while, or I may need to stop payment. We can't predict everything. Life still happens. If you have to, you can postpone payment. If you are an IBR, you can postpone payment the whole time you're in residency. I do not recommend this. Do not do this. You're wasting time and money on that. But postpone for a month or two? Yeah, maybe. If the money's really that dire, go for it. If you are on RAP, you can postpone up to 9 months of payments across a 2-year period. So 9 months consecutively, 9 months spaced out. Again, I don't recommend doing this, but it's an option if you absolutely need it. And 30 days before, you're going to need to request another one if you're having to extend this. So like if you're IBR and you're going to do this year after year, again, I don't recommend that. 30 days before the end of one that you can get set up for a whole year, you'll submit the next one. You don't want a gap in that. You don't have to make a $2,000 payment in the middle if you can't do it for whatever reason. Again, this is unlikely, but it is an option. 2-year consecutive period from the first, again, final regulations are not out, but as we interpreted them so far, 2 years from the first month of that forbearance. So if I start my forbearance in, we're going to do this easy, January of 2028, I could go 9 months straight, and then until January of 2030, I can't take another month off. All right. How do you deal with the news? News around this is often spectacular. We've got a lot of clickbaity headlines. You need to look and see who's writing the article. Is it a journalist? I'm not saying journalists are bad. Journalists are generalists. They know a little bit about a lot, and they can report it and they can put it in a way that we understand, and it's really good information. But I read some of the articles on this. I'm like, oh my word, you can tell this person has no clue what they're talking about. If you can find something from an industry expert, so something from NASFA, which is National Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, something from the AAMC, something from us, although I'm not writing published articles or anything like that. I'm not that fancy. That would be a more trustworthy source than a regular journalist. Is it an opinion piece? Just throw that out the window. Also see where it's coming from. Is it a newspaper, online news source, blogger, political commentator? Unless it's an actual news source, I'm taking everything they say with a grain of salt. If it's someone selling me something, peace out. No, I'm not listening to you on that. I'm going to go get the information from a free source that has no game in here, because there are groups that will be like, hey, for $2,000 a year, we will manage your public service loan forgiveness. You will give them every bit of information I just told you to do. And you'll still have to do every step I just told you to do. You're just out an extra $2,000 a year. They'll try and do it. They'll try and make it sound really dire, and they'll try and get your money. And it's a valid industry. Like, if you can make money off something as a business, sure. But you can do all this stuff for free. Then take a look at the content. So we've now vetted and said, hey, we think we trust this news source. Is it old news? Like, are they just reporting on something that we've known about for years that is just finally coming into implementation, or they're just recapping something? Are they talking about a proposed bill? Y'all, until a bill passes both chambers, you don't need to pay any attention to it. And even still, it could not, there's a chance it doesn't get signed by the president, depending on what's in the bill, who's in the office. So if it's a proposed bill, just ignore it. You're going to see a million proposals. I looked at it, I want to say last spring, and since the founding of our country, 95% of proposed bills have gone nowhere. And it's only getting worse and worse in terms of that. People propose things because they want to get reelected and say, I did something. I proposed this and the idiots in the other party didn't approve it. I don't care what party you're in, they all say the same thing. And that's what they're doing. Until it's a passed bill, it doesn't matter. And if the bill's coming out of committee, maybe I'm paying a little bit more attention to it because it's going to get a full vote on the floor. But even still, just as an awareness piece, y'all let me handle that part. And if there's anything major that passes, again, with that good alumni contact email, I'll reach out to you. They're going to ask you for that as we get closer to graduation, and make sure it's like your Gmail account, something that's not going to go away. AAMC has a guide that is not quite as specific as what we talked about in here today. You're welcome to go look at that. They've also got some handy dandy infographics and things like that. But you can also, this video is going to be, is recorded and it'll be posted probably in a few days, assuming I don't have the same audio issues I did with the one I did last week. Go ahead. Can I send you these actual slides? Yes. I will also see what I can do about putting it as a PDF link underneath the video. So yeah, you can have this, you can take it with you. Absolutely. Yeah, and I post it publicly so like anyone can access it. If you've got friends at other med schools, feel free to share it with them too. You've got to help me stay above my subscriber numbers of some of the kids that I work with. They've got like 85, I'm still at 115. So I got to stay above them because it drives them insane. Chubby Biscuits, that's what they're calling themselves. It's a trail life group patrol in my organization. All right, you ask questions, I try and answer them. Anyone have any more questions?
If you screw something up and apply for Pslf in 10 years and get denied, does it negate you from reapplying?
So if you screw up and you apply, let's say you apply early and you get denied. No, it doesn't negate you from reapplying. You just reapply a month later or whenever you are going to actually qualify. Like you could be like me, like I like to fill out my forms early and then just save them. And if I accidentally hit submit, no, totally fine. Just submit a new one. Yeah. If you get denied for any reason, you're going to want to see what the denial's for. Because if they're saying something that's contrary to what your paperwork says, you submit the paperwork and they're pretty quick about fixing it. The only errors I've actually seen in the last 3 years have been where the Department of Ed actually ended up forgiving a loan a few months earlier than I think they should have. Like when I actually went and totaled out the numbers for one of my friends, I'm like, you shouldn't have gotten that letter yet. And they're like, we don't care, we ain't paying anymore. We got a letter that says our loans are forgiven. I said, you do that. Bank error in your favor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when you select your repayment option, it is in studentaid.gov. Your loan servicer, yeah. They'll get the communication. They'll start charging you it. Now, the goal for within a year, year and a half, if they're not already there yet, is that even though different servicers are going to be managing things, all of your logins are going to be on studentaid.gov. That's the goal, is to move to, even though there's 5 national servicers, there will be one central hub for all processing. The government has heard loud and clear that the different servicers, their websites look different. It can be confusing. If we put everything on one, we can create one universal set of training documents for things. How quickly they get that out, because they got a lot of other stuff going on right now, may see some delays on that because that's not bound by a statutory date. But likely you'll be doing most of your interaction with studentaid.gov, including payment plans and direct deposit, within a year or so. Until then, yes, with your servicer. All right, other questions? If there aren't any, I've got to get to a meeting with one of you that's in this room. Thank y'all.